Good evening, Professor. This is Andrea Jones. Um, I was not going to submit this because I thought that I had did it before, but it looks like it did not get posted, and I couldn't go back and try to find it because I didn't know how I had saved it. But this is the week 4 assignment of the video for social performance of organizations. Um, it is a late submission, so I know that it's going to be some points that are going to be taken off on it, which is to be expected. But moving forward, the company that I chose was Kimberly Clark. I basically chose Kimberly Clark Corporation because um, I use majority of some of their products in my daily household, ranging from Scott's paper towel to Scott's toilet paper, to Poise pads, to when my kids were smaller, I used Huggy diapers, pull-ups. I sometimes use Kotex tampons and things now. Um, so I basically chose them because like I said, I incorporate a majority of my household items into my daily life. Kimberly Clark is a an American corporation that produces personal needs products, mostly paper-based for consumers such as ourselves. And it does manufacture some of the things that I had mentioned, like Kotex, Scott's, Huggies, pull-ups, Poise, Depends. Kimberly Clark is the number 1 and number 2 household brands shared in at least 80 countries throughout the world. This company was founded by a group of gentlemen in 1872: John Kennedy, Havelock Babcock, Charles B. Clark, and Franklin Shattuck. This company was started with a capital of approximately $42,000. Now today that would kind of be on the low side of trying to start a business, but not saying that it wouldn't be feasible as a startup. But like I said, this business was started with $42,000, and it was basically started up by the operation of paper mills. Um, Kimberly Clark has over 1/4 of the world's population that purchases or uses the products every day, with the leading brands sold in more than 135 countries throughout the U.S. throughout the world. The employees there are about 42,000 worldwide, and operations in at least 35 countries. In 2016, Kimberly Clark's um, sales reached at least $18.2 billion. But you can't imagine that being that high just based on paper. We have a paper company here in the city that I work in called First Quality, and they, like I said, they manufacture similar items such as what Kimberly Clark manufactures. And no one would think that that type of sustainability in the market would be as prominent as it is. But everybody uses paper, everybody uses toilet tissue, everybody uses, or females use Depends, females use tampons, females use pads. So that would kind of be really something that we would kind of look at as far as being sustainable in the market. I know it. The first question or the second question was to suggest 5 ways in which the primary stakeholders can influence the organization's financial performance. What I wrote was the ways that the primary stakeholders can influence the organization's financial performance are through the customers, which are base, number 1 base, the suppliers, employees, top management, and shareholders. Customers such as ourselves and clients are one of the most impactful stakeholders within the group as far as for long-term oriented business. Now, we as consumers, we have the ability to send word of mouth. So if something isn't going right, or you feel is not well within that business, then you um, have your word of mouth, which will go a long way to see whether or not other customers will continue to stay with that business or be unfavorable to that business by sending out negative comments or anything of that nature for that company. It says, beyond that, being open and honest, offering products and services of value. That's how we as consumers will still be loyal to that particular business. So if you have a business that is not favorable, being open and honest in the things that they're doing, then that's when we as consumers have the objective to go elsewhere to take our money to where it's going to be more beneficial for us. Business partners and suppliers also command attention in decision making, decisions made by managers. When you collaborate with other organizations, and that's what suppliers and vendors and all that do, is that they collaborate with one another in order to make business transactions for profit or beneficial to the other party. When you collaborate with other organizations, you must have a win-win attitude to keep the interests of the interest of the company. Any company you sell to or buy from is affected by the way business is conducted. If one values the relationship more than the other, your decisions need to take the decisions that you make need to be taken into consideration with the shared value of the other businesses involved. Now, as far as for top management, it's responsible for the compliance aimed at promoting and protecting human rights and the environment. Management perceptions and opinions have an influence on the implementation of environmental practices. Employees aren't always valued as a stakeholder group independent from the business itself. So now we don't think as being an employee of a company that we are that important to that company. But we ourselves have to realize that we have a stake in that company as well. We, being an employee, must know what we're doing as far as for the business, must have an interest in the business and really protect what's going on within the business. I work in customer service, so it's very important for certain information that you as an employee has that it doesn't get leaked out into the areas where it's not prominent for that company. Say for instance, you have information on a new item that is coming out. Then we know that for firsthand, but it's best that we don't leak that information out into the public or into other areas where when we make those particular products, it doesn't get to other companies for them to, take on ideas and things that we as our company hold dear. So we have a stake in how the company is ran. We have a stake in how decisions are made. We have a stake in as an employee of practices and things that may be and ensure us to be able to stay with that particular company. I've been with my company for almost 25 years now, so I think I hold particular interest in what goes on with that company. I always wanted to work for the company, and God has blessed me to be able to stay there as long as I have. But I also have to be able to do my part as far as being a beneficial employee, like being there on time, being trustworthy, being able to hold company information and not being able to leak it out to other sources or anything like that. So I think I hold myself high as in that aspect of being with my particular company. Um, like I said, we're not always valued, but we are a big stakeholder within our company. Also, managers who treat employees fairly will have great loyalty for us to be able to stay within that company and being committed. And that's with anybody. If you feel like if you feel like you're being treated unfairly, you're not going to stay with that particular company. You're going to go somewhere where you feel like you're being appreciated and what you do is not going to be in vain. Um, and with anybody as being an employee. To truly value employees as an asset, managers must promote cultural sensitivity, non-discrimination, and other things that are in the workplace. So a lot of managers, I myself, has been one for about 10 years, have to take into consideration of all aspects of the employees. Now, each employee you have to treat with care. Each one is different. They're not always the same. But as far as for the occupation that we're in, we just have to group them in in the customer service area. Be sure that we're treating each one fairly. If there's an issue, we have to do that separately. Don't do it in front of everybody else. And just ensure the employee that they are important and that they are very needed within that company. One controversial concern that I ran across with Kimberly-Clark was the fact that um, they were in an agreement with the Canadian forest area where they were going to do deforestation, which is taking out all these trees. Now, like I said, Kimberly-Clark does paper, but the controversial concern that I came across with Kimberly-Clark's commitment to help end and minimize deforestation. The Canadian boreal forest is an ancient forest which allows trees to flourish untouched for hundreds of years. It is 3 million square miles or square meters of woodlands that is very delicate to the ecosystem. Clearing out this particular area with logging and removing of these trees causes a devastation for the animals and for the people alike. Um, and Kimberly-Clark was within this uh, controversy as far as for doing all this clearing of these logs, and these logs were being left there to rot and not be of any use to them. But Greenpeace came along and they had created um, a um, and they had created and was invested in the forest deconstruction, which would help not have all of these logs and things being littered out throughout the area. So in November 2005, um, Kimberly-Clark facilities across the globe, there were a lot of protests that were going on to keep them from being able to use certain trees in order for their products, such as the Kleenex brand, to be um, used. Now they did change their mind as far as for with Greenpeace and other protests that were going along in order to comply to what um, was going on. So they did more on the recycling end, trying to create a recycled tissue and toilet paper guide. Several years of effort from thousands of supporters across the globe, Kimberly-Clark outlined a source strategy that makes it an industry leader in sustainable logging practices. It set a 2011 goal to have 40% of the fiber in North America housing tissue products to either be recycled or certified by the Forest Stewardship Council. In 2016, Kimberly-Clark Corporation published the annual report on sustainability, providing a comprehensive update on the company's efforts and introducing new sustainability priorities and goals through 2020. It says that our vision, which is Kimberly-Clark, is to lead the world in essentials for a better life. From the products that we make to help moms care for their families to having the proper regard of the environment. This vision inspires us to care for the communities where we live and where we work. Now, in the conclusion, Kimberly-Clark may have fallen short on some areas as far as for sustainability and being able to stay in the market. A lot of companies do fail in that area. But based on the market analysis and sustainability, Kimberly-Clark continues to maintain consistency favorably. Have they done everything correctly? No. But with the gallant efforts to the environment and being consumer friendly, they will reach considerable heights from the years to come. Now, this has concluded this week 4 video, and I hope that it had touched all the areas of question within this particular assignment. And I do thank you for being able to submit it. Blessings.